All right, using a combination of measurements and the old micrometer, I went ahead and tucked these corners down a little bit on the sides so that they would run into the A-posts a little bit smoother. So it's got instead of going up, it's got a little bit of an arc going to it now, but it seems to be blending out pretty good, and that shouldn't be a big stretch to pull the sheet metal down in this direction here. If it bunges up, I'll make a new piece for the corner, but I doubt that it will. At any rate, this is what the corner is looking like. It's a little 1/8 inch piece of steel welded right to the top of this tower here. And I've gone ahead and put a weld nut on the back side here. This is bolted in through here, and then I've got a, right now, temporary washer on the inside. I may end up putting a piece of nylon in there in the eventual end, but this is tightened up against the tower here, and that's your pivot point on both sides. So that's where we're at now, and that gives me a good idea as to what I've got to go and do for this cowl here. So I'll be seeing if there's anything I forgot here, and then after that I'll be proceeding with that. All right, just a short demo of how these pivot points work. Pretty basic, pretty simple. Pretty stable too, that's the main thing. All right, I got to add a little more structure to this now based on how it intersects across different pieces here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another piece like this to follow the contour, but in this neighborhood right here, what I want to create is I want to create a nice landing spot for a foam seal, a rubber seal, to go all the way along this existing firewall top. But first I have to basically introduce another frame member like this, but I want to make sure that it contours to the hood, so I got to take this all back off and load it back into the hood in the other room, and then put these pieces in, and then it'll have to get loaded back onto the car. So I've got these temporary pieces of sheet metal just bent quickly just to give me a guide so I know where to locate these pieces relative to this piece and the frame of the hood. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do next. All right, with this frame dropped back into the hood skin, you can see these temporary pieces. I was able to transfer the line so I could put another frame piece, this 5/8 by 5/8 in here, and then down in through this shape over here, and then across the other side to create the beginnings of what I'm going to have to do to join the existing firewall edge to the hood. I'll also be putting some pieces in here to carry the area of the latch. Not that I'm going to be working on that right now, but might as well while I have it in here. All right, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So what I had to do just now is got the hood on there, and then I realized that the contour of the hood over here, I was kind of freewheeling it, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. This thing was coming up the hill in order to miss all of this stuff over here and maintain the front edge height, and I was using it to give me a generous area over here. But the problem was, I thought, well, I'll just curl these hood corners off to the side over here. There's enough flexibility in the sheet metal to do that. But I had way too much arc in this over here, so I had to take this and make it comply more with the profile of the fender. This fender's goofed up right here. There's a dent in it, some welding, but that's going to get cut away. Anyway, what I had to do is I had to cut and relax both sides down a little bit more. I dropped the hood corners about 5/8 of an inch, which works out better because it was coming in somewheres up in above this point over here as far as leading in, and now it's leading in to the base of the A-post where it's supposed to. And anyway, that's the stuff you run into, but of course it makes everything a whole lot closer right here. This is close, but this has a bracket that can be cut, and you can probably get about 1/2 inch out of there. This, we're right on top of the element itself. I don't know if that could be twisted, flattened out. If it could, then that really would give us a lot more clearance than I presently have right here. I just have probably about 1/4 inch right here. It's right on top of the element just about. And the cap's fine though. On that side, we're real close with that container. I'm gonna have to take that container off anyway, because we're going to put some lowering springs in this. So I got to get to the shock towers and everything and get the bolts out of that, which will be a nice job getting down in there to get the other bolt out of the A-frame up here. There's one A-frame bolt there, and there's one buried behind everything that's bunched up in the corner here, plus this container. Hopefully once I get this off, I can see my way clear to that's right on top of this shock tower. So I mean, there's very little clearance here, but if I could just shift it down in that direction a little bit. No, it's right up against that member there. That's going to be tricky, but as right now it's missing. I might have to just lift the front edge of the hood just a tick to get that to clear, but we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I might have to take the bracket and kind of shift it around a little bit to get that to drop down in there. At any rate, this is the piece that I put in there that basically complies with the existing firewall. It's kind of hard to see because it goes up and down like a roller coaster. But anyway, this way I'll be able to put a seal right in this area here to seal the hood, the back of the hood off from the engine compartment. Also, what I'm looking at right now, just kind of goofing around with, is the idea of what we're going to do. Just right now, is this fender's hung. It's actually 3 inches out in this direction, which I'm looking at the wheels, the way they're going to steer out. Of course, this has got to tip out from the bottom a little bit. We got to get this into where this point here is only 2 inches out, which means I'm going to trim about an inch off the inside edge. That's 1 inch. Then I'm going to try and do a taper from 1 inch to 0 to 1 inch over here. Then also what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and widen the top of the door 1 inch at the front, instead of trying to keep it in at the stock location, bring it out so it's a better blend with the rear of the car. We'll see how that works out, see if I run into any issues with the hinge point or anything like that. This top surface here may end up having to be tilted out, which by that time this fender should be cut up in a million pieces, but it may have to tilt out a little bit in order to keep this top profile from being too fat. So in the eventual end, this will be, we'll take 1 inch here and the inch in the front and the back, so this will be 2 inches out from the stock location on the normal Charger. We don't want to distort it too much because it's a beauty just the way she sits, and you don't want to tamper with perfection. It's always a mistake. Okay, just going to show you what's going on here. What I did was I bent a 90-degree piece out of sheet metal 035, and I basically made it fit the top side of the existing firewall in this direction here, and then I made some cutouts so that this could pass it by when both of these would interrupt it. And then I dropped the hood frame down, and then I took and I traced the back side of this with a scratch awl so that I could get the contour on that piece of sheet metal. And then I trimmed it down 1/4 of an inch lower than that profile that was scratched into the metal. And the reason for that is I have this piece right here that normally seals up the cowl that I want to put on there. So compressed, it's about 1/4 of an inch. So I wanted 1/4 of an inch space between this part of the hood frame and this piece here. So I've got this L shape here, follows this minus 1/4, and now I'm busy working this piece, which will complete this shape, basically like that. Give me some place to apply that rubber molding to for this hood frame to land on. So I'm in the process right now of tweaking that all together, getting that in there. Got to do that on the opposite side also. Got that started with the weld-through primer drying right now on that. Also, what I've done while I was over here is I cut open this path for the air to come in from a vent that will be in this cowl here, and it'll pass through here and into this box right here. And then the box will be have a closure on top of it for the fresh air input. So I thought I'd do that before I got going too far. I'm going to have to dam it up on this side over here and also on this side to kind of get the airflow to go in. Also cut small little flat drain areas. I'll have to seal this up over here because this is actually the divide between two sheet metal pieces for the firewall, the outer firewall, and the center piece. Got another small drain here so that any water getting in through here wants to flow out naturally into this plastic box and then out through the holes on the bottom of the frame right there. So lots of little stuff. I'm just going to keep going here. Well, the piece from the Challenger, the rubber bead, was a little too short, so I had this half inch by half inch rubber bulb that has a double stick tape on the bottom side. It's aftermarket. It's a piece of leftover from something else I was doing. At any rate, I'm gonna have to get some more of that stuff. And as you can see here, I have that piece welded in here now. I gotta go back and after I was just double checking to make sure it was gonna all work out. And it's gotta be welded on the back side here. But it's welded across the front over here. And just hang on a minute, I'll show you how this looks when it's closed up. All right, you can see over here, and that rib comes down and basically makes contact with the rubber bulb and seals it all the way across the top of the cowl. And that's the name of that tune. So on to the other side. Before I close it up on this side, I just wanted to show you what the end profile ends up looking like. It's kind of like a square tube look on the end there, but that's what the total enclosure looks like. Anyway. Okay, so that completes that little transitional piece right there. And so now I can drop the hood and start working on the cover for the mechanism for the windshield wiper and the windshield wiper studs. That's what's next. All right, so what I want to start with is this piece of rubber that I've scavenged off of the Challenger cowl piece. This piece right here that wraps around the windshield. There's a little rubber molding that's molded into this plastic piece, and what I did was I cut it away about a ½ inch below the rubber where the rubber joins the plastic, so I have a strip to attach my metal cowl piece to. The other thing I had to do is I took the shrinker stretcher and gently maneuvered this piece to where it would fit this profile as opposed to what it was on the Challenger. So I've taped the bottom of the windshield about an inch up from the bottom of the windshield bed, and I've cut the ends off because I want these pieces to be independent on the end over here, because trying to load this piece in around the studs is a real pain. So I want the centerpiece to be free of all the complexity that goes on in this corner over here. So there'll be two end pieces over here that are independent with two rubber gaskets of their own, which I'll yield from that piece also. And then this center section here. Anyway, how I'm proceeding now is I'm going ahead and I'm taping this into place so that it's I've got a reference for where to start my metal work. All right, the next thing I've done here is I've taken a ½ by ½ L channel here and shaped it to where it'll create a little ledge for me to start developing my pattern up to my windshield molding here. So I'll add these pieces in here to determine what my sheet metal piece is going to look like and see what kind of issues I have. Anyway, that's where I'm at now. All right, so this is what it's starting to look like. Developing it one half at a time, just to try and keep the thing from being too overwhelming, because it's got to be a piece of sheet metal. It's got to have some shape to it, so it's got to be English wheeled in this direction here. And I want to make sure that I clear everything. Windshield wiper studs, the motor has got to be worked around. A little box has to be built up and over the motor into this panel when it's done. So yeah, this is where I'm at, and we'll just continue on from here. All right, so here's the passenger side cowl panel, sort of roughed in. I basically have a lot more work to do to it. I have to cut a screen opening in this area right here, so the air hitting the windshield will want to tuck in right into this area right here. I have to widen out this area for the motor so that it's easier to get the plug in and it's not bound up against the metal. And that's about it, though. It's a little tough making these kinds of panels because they change direction. They not only arc over in this direction here and sweep around, but they have to have this swale in them all the way across. So basically you have to stretch these edges uniformly on both sides, and stretching the edges, it gets this curl in it, and then the more you stretch it, the more it wants to rock over in these arcs. And so it's a little bit tricky. But anyway, got the other side to do. That's always the hardest thing. You make the first one, early celebration, then you got to try and match it on the other side, which is a little tougher. All right, so that's the left and the right half put together. Now I got to do the little box that covers the motor there, and we'll go on from here. Also, I got to create some end pieces here. That'll be a little bit tricky, but moving on. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've welded both halves together. I created this little box in the center to cover up the windshield wiper motor. I still have to put a flange over here so we can seal that up. I also went and made some cutouts over here and welded some stainless steel screen in on the underside in order for there to be an air inlet to follow through in this area right here to lead into the fresh air box right here. So I'll take that tape off of there now. At any rate, so yeah, that's what I've got going on here right now, and I still got to figure out a couple of things here, and then I'm going to get these ends built. I also have to create a diverter underneath of this piece, which will be a little bit complicated because it goes over the crown and it has to sweep in this direction. So we'll have to figure out what's going to happen there. It's not 100% necessary, but it'd be nice to direct the air towards that box there instead of it just filling up that cavity underneath there. Just thought I'd drop this here and show you how this complies with the back edge of the hood, so that it is still visible from this side over here, obviously if you look in this direction, but I made sure that I kind of ended it right here along the edge of the hood. All right, so this is what I've come up with as far as the corner closure. You can see it completes the rubber molding. The rubber molding just set in here right now. It'll be fastened to this piece here to finish out the corner. It's held in by 1/4 20. There's a flange underneath here of 60 thousandths that I welded to this vertical flange. I'll take it off and let you see what else I got going under here. But this overlaps. You can see I've stepped the metal up so that it overlaps. Captures the center section of the cowl in order to basically positively drag this thing down into position so it doesn't want to flutter at all in this corner. Anyway, I'm going to take it off and show you what I've got going on underneath there because I got to take it off anyway. All right, so this is what I have here. Just a flat piece of sheet metal. I had to minimize it to get it in underneath this bolt that holds the hinge in on this side over here. Now, what I've done here is you can see this is my flange that I've attached by welding it on the inside of this tower, and it's angled up so that it flows in from this over here. You can see without this thing has a little bit of bounce to it, which I want to eliminate, obviously. What this does is, let me take this out of here for now. That's the rubber piece that's going to go to it, that goes to the windshield. This piece goes in up underneath here like this, and then it gets through bolted right in this inside corner over here. You could see that if I had this end attached to the center section, that it'd be nightmarish to try and get this cowl out around this inside bolt over here. So this one little corner piece here solves that problem, and it can be taken out from inside the engine compartment to release the rest of the cowl. And it's got a minimum of it's like a 1/4 of an inch L channel on the back side to make it rigid. Otherwise it would flex way out over here beyond the point where it's attached, and I'd have to add another attachment point, which would be difficult because the fender's going to overlap this area here, so this is going to be an area that's not going to be accessible necessarily. Alright, so this is what the piece looks like after I secured the rubber with some pop rivets, steel pop rivets, countersunk, and then backup washers on the back side. I'll put sand this down and put epoxy on over top of these rivets before I end up priming and painting the rest of this piece. But anyways, this piece fits right in here, and then it holds that whole mess down, and that goes up against the glass. Anyway, moving on to the other side. So I'm over on the driver's side now, and pretty much got my piece complete. Just needs a little tweaking here and there, but I need to transfer the hole that's on the tab that's already there to the top side of this piece here. So what I've done is I've just placed this over here so I could pull it back like a flap and put the piece in, run that flap back over, mark the hole. Just thought I'd show you that. Alright, I've got the cowl upside down on the bench right now, and I've gone ahead and I've painted the underside of this grill screen with some self-etched black primer and some trim black, because it'll be a little bit difficult to make sure it gets completely coated. Once these two pieces are together, this piece here is just something I just made up. It's a tray that is going to weld to the bottom side here, and it's going to create an air diverter so that we get air from the cowl into the cabin filter area. So this will direct the air through that hole and hopefully into the cabin filter container. Anyway, just getting ready to weld this on for the last time, and I'm going from here. Alright, with the cowl in there, you can see the how the shelf is directing the air, hopefully towards this fresh air inlet over here. I might go ahead and put a little bit of a floor, a little return floor here, and around this end over here, just to kind of, close it off a little bit more. But essentially that's it. I want it to be open here because this also gives me another opportunity to drain any water that gets into this area out through this box, which has drain holes in the bottom over here. So there's another drain over here, so any water that gets in there will get by. But because of the nature of the way this thing is, this lip here this little lip here would dump the water directly down into this compartment. If I can just pull it out just a little bit further and get the water to dump down into here, the majority of the water that goes through in here hopefully will drop through without collecting up in the back compartment in the first place. Anyway, that's where we're at with this right now, and that's about it for this week, and I appreciate everybody for watching, and we'll keep whittling away over here until we get done.